Hi, dear followers. We continue our podcast series, and today our guest is political science Lilit Dallakyan. Hi, Lilit.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
And today we starting our talk with negotiation between Russia and Ukraine. And what is your opinion on recent negotiation platform which is being in Istanbul?
The only main concrete result is the exchange of war prisoners between two sides. Of course, this is very important, but as I have mentioned before, Vladimir Putin is not ready for peace because he is still believing that he can conquer more territories from Ukraine. That's why the Western countries, Western allies of Ukraine, and especially US President Donald Trump, should press Vladimir Putin to start real negotiations, and especially with President Vladimir Zelensky. What we saw the delegation of Russia, and they were not high-level ranking officials. And it seemed to be that Vladimir Putin is not serious when he is talking about negotiations. But Vladimir Zelensky asked to start negotiations primarily with Vladimir Putin. So now Donald Trump is saying that after his meeting with Vladimir Putin, some serious results will be achieved. But I don't think so. I don't share this opinion because, and when he is speaking about sanctions, I also don't think that this will be useful. Why? Because only weapon supply to Ukraine and intelligence sharing will put Vladimir Putin in position where he will be weakened, and he will understand that by using force, he cannot conquer Ukraine. He cannot reach his goals in Ukraine. So I think Western allies like Germany, like France, like Great Britain, they understand this. And now they call Donald Trump to start pressing Russia, because before we saw that Donald Trump is saying, I will put sanctions either on Russia or on Ukraine. But this is not normal. This is not according to international law, because we have, as I have mentioned before, aggressor and the victim of aggression. So Donald Trump should speak seriously with Vladimir Putin or start to supply more weapons to Ukraine, because the situation in front line is very fragile, and weapon supply will change this. So we see that Vladimir Putin thanks the North Korean soldier for supporting him, for freeing Kursk region. So we should understand that the Russian army cannot conquer new territories of Ukraine. But what is not just that Russia asking Ukraine to give them their territories, the territories that are not under the Russian control. So even the Vice President of United States, J.D. Vance, said that this cannot be a real conclusion of negotiations, because it's not normal to require the territory of neighboring country which you are not controlling now. So Donald Trump said that he is watching to meet with Vladimir Putin, and as soon as possible they will meet. But I think that US president and his administration will start real negotiations with Vladimir Putin after they will understand that Putin is ready to make some gestures, how to say, to make some concrete steps towards Ukraine. Because if they meet and Donald Trump will not have any concrete result, this will be very bad for, how to say, for Donald Trump himself, because he will not have something to introduce to his Congress, to introduce to the people of United States, and he will be in a weakened position. So what, you meet and you didn't don't have any concrete results, especially in this negotiation. So, in conclusion, we should say that weapon supply to Ukraine, that humanitarian aid to Ukraine, and also imposing sanctions on Russia is very vital in this situation. And what is important that Russian allies like Brazil or like China, they also stress that Putin should start negotiations with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Even President of Brazil, Lula da Silva, stressed that I will try to ask Vladimir Putin to sit and to start negotiations with Vladimir Zelensky. But we saw that Vladimir Putin now is not ready for them. Only sanctions and concrete weapon supply will impose Vladimir Putin, not stretch the time and start the peaceful agreement negotiations.
Some experts highlight that this negotiation, the first high-level platform of conversation between Russia and Ukraine. What is your opinion? And can also Turkey have impact in further situation in Ukraine?
I think that Vladimir Putin didn't want to give the role of mediator to Turkey. But after Turkish President and Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan was present in Europe, where he said that we are ready to support Ukraine, to support Europe, that we are part of Europe, we can be boots on the ground in the front line. So Vladimir Putin understood that neutral position of Turkey is very vital to Russia, because every time what we see and what we hear from Russian television programs that Turkey is not ally of United States, that Turkey is ally of Russia. Yes, it is a member of NATO, Second Army, but we have very good relations with Turkey. So after Vladimir Putin understood that having, good relations with Trump is not meaning that Trump will sell, to say, Ukraine to Russia, he understood that again Turkey is becoming very vital for Russia. That's why also I think Aliyev didn't take part in parade in May 9th. Victory Day, because in Azerbaijan, everybody understands that Vladimir Putin is not so powerful as he wants to present himself, that Turkey is very important for Russia, and also the land connection concerning so-called Zangezur corridor is very important for Russia, because in this situation, when Europe says that we will impose new sanctions on Russia, land connection with Turkey and to the old world is very important. It's becoming very important for Russian economy. That's why, again, Turkey becomes a very important partner. They are not allies. They are not allies also with Iran or with China. They compete in this region. We should understand this. But Vladimir Putin thinks that by making a mediator, Mr. Erdogan, in this situation, will move Turkey farther from the United States and from the West.
But in your perspective, what country the favorite mediator for Russia? And I think in case of negotiation, I think that the two sides realize that that war without negotiation about peace can lead to frustration between different segments of society in two countries.
Yes, Ukrainian people are very tired, we should understand, of this war, because military comparison with Russia is very huge, 4 or 5 times more population, more weapon compulsory, but we also should understand that Russia is also very tired, because they bring North Korean soldiers, they bring soldiers from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzia, post-Soviet countries, from Africa even, and from India. You remember that even Indian Prime Minister stressed that this is not acceptable for India. So two countries are very weakened. They are very tired, and also there are some voices in Russia that the peace is not acceptable for Vladimir Putin. Why? Because after the peace agreement, signing the peace agreement, these soldiers will be back to Russia, and what they will do? We know that now they are fighting for money. So they are not soldiers. They are fighting. There are many prisoners. They are fighting for money. And after they will come back to Russia, Russia will face serious economic problems, especially if sanctions will not be lifted from Russia. So Vladimir Putin will have serious internal programs. So that's why I think for such regimes in Azerbaijan, in North Korea, Russia, and so on, the war is very important, because you every time can say, oh, our problems is because of war. The West is bad. They are fighting against us. We live bad, but this is because of the West. So this is an important thing, but also Vladimir Putin understands that by using weapons, he cannot conquer Ukraine, and he couldn't achieve the result 3 days to conquer all Ukraine, and Ukrainian people they support their president, Mr. Zelensky. They don't have anything against him, the majority, I will say. So that's why Vladimir Putin should now understand what will be in favor of his regime to continue the war and not knowing the results of the war. Because if the West starts to really supply weapons to Ukraine and aid, we don't know what will happen in the front line. And second, if he stops the war, what he will tell to his population, so Z supporters, far right supporters of his regime, and if these soldiers will come back to Russia, what they will do. So, because from history we know that after World War I, why the regime in Russian Empire was ousted? Because the soldiers from the front line came back and they started to use their weapons against Tsar, against the regime of Tsar. So this is also very, I think, a serious problem for Vladimir Putin regime.
And what should do Armenia in this situation? For example, some Armenian experts says that Armenia should keep balance between Russia and Europe. As without this balance, Armenia can face with different problems, especially in economic field.
I don't agree that Russia is not participating in the, activities in South Caucasus, because some political scientists are saying that Russia has gone already. We don't have Russia. No, we have. And as you have mentioned, Russia plays a huge role in Armenian economy. That's why we are criticizing Armenian government, that they are speaking about diversification, but we don't have and we don't see any concrete steps. Vice versa, what we are hearing from Gevor Papuan, for example, he's saying that yes, we have very strong economic ties with Eurasian Economic Union. So we are speaking about diversification towards EU. We have law towards our strong relations with EU, but also we deepen our relations with Russia. And what is very bad in this situation from Armenia, I think that the gap between West and Russia will grow. And in this situation, maybe European countries will ask Armenia gently to say if Armenia is ally of Russia, or we are going to Europe. So we maybe cannot play this game further, and we should understand that Russia is is a global threat for Armenia, not only for Armenia, for South Caucasus countries, for Azerbaijan, for Georgia. We remember that Ukrainian president said.
But in recent time, Prime Minister of Georgia tried to try to keep normalization of relation between Georgia and Russia.
Of course, but at the same time, he is also saying that we also want to go to EU,
yes,
and we want to deepen our relations with United States. So small countries like Armenia, Georgia, and also Azerbaijan, they understand the threat from Russia. Everybody remember 2008 in Georgia, Abkhazia, Ossetia, and so on. And we should be very careful. We should make our steps very carefully. But I don't see that 7 years already our government and our prime minister is making concrete steps towards diversification of economy. Even to the south, to Arab countries, our economy is very small. Our population is very small. We can do this with United States. We signed April 5. What did we have? Nothing. 1 year has passed and not concrete results and steps were achieved. So I think that we should not speak about Russia's threat, but we should make concrete steps. Because when we are speaking, Maria Zakharova or Russian television are saying that, look, Mr. Pashinyan is pro-Western, he's against Russia, but at the same time, we are participating in parade in Moscow, and Europe also is saying, what are you doing? We don't understand you. So also we should understand that weapon is very important in this situation. So use of force is normal in today's world.
In this case, Sargsyan also has some steps against Russia.
Who, sorry?
Sargsyan.
Of
President of Armenia.
course. And Robert Kochan, every time he is criticizing
Yes.
Sargsyan that your steps towards West also were resulted in April war in between Armenia and Azerbaijan, 2016. But I don't share his opinion, because even when he was president, he met with United States presidents, with George W. Bush. He was speaking about border opening with Turkey. With relation normalization with Turkey. He wasn't speaking about genocide, we remember, with US representatives. To have normal relations with Turkey, with West, with Azerbaijan is vital. But when your neighboring country, Azerbaijan, every time says that I will attack your territory, that this is my territory, Western Azerbaijan, and so on. We should combine international law and also strong army, because this government is saying we don't need a strong army, we don't need to reorganize our army according to NATO principle, because only buying some weapons is not the serious step towards NATO army. Like Azerbaijan, what did Azerbaijan do? They reorganized their army as Turkish army. So Soviet, post-Soviet armies, they cannot compete even now in Ukraine. So we should buy weapons. We should produce weapons in Armenia, like Ukraine is producing weapons during wartime. Also, we should have strong economy and, of course, rule of law, because if population is divided, this country cannot survive and cannot compete.
But I mean, each president of his time tried to open borders between Armenia and Turkey,
Of course.
as they realized the logistical value.
Of course, Levon Ter-Petrosyan,
Yes.
Robert Kochan, Sargsyan, they all were trying this. We remember 2008. But when they are becoming opposition, they are trying to stress that this government, they are betrayers. They are pro-Turkish. I don't understand. That's why I don't taking seriously this their vision that Armenia should be closed. Armenia should not have any relations with Turkey, even with Azerbaijan, and our ally is only Russia. Which started to sell more weapons to Azerbaijan during the period of Sir Sargsyan.
And I also want to know your opinion about Kirill Dmitriev, who in recent time become more popular in Russian political field.
So Kirill Dmitriev is like a member of negotiation team of Russian Federation concerning sanctions, lifting the sanctions from Russia. He had some meetings in the United States with J.D. Vance, with representative of Donald Trump, Steve Witkoff.
He also a member of political party of Putin?
Yes, because he is like the member of family
Yes,
of
big
Vladimir
family.
Putin. Yes, big family. Everybody says that he's a very clever person. He had education in the Western countries. What he's speaking about investment in Russia, because when Ukraine started the negotiations concerning natural resources agreement with the United States and signed that, Vladimir Putin said that we also have natural resources and Donald Trump and United States can invest in Russia. So Kirill Dmitriev is like businessman. He wants to make it possible for Trump to make great investments, like Donald Trump likes to say, huge investments in Russia. Yes, but I don't think this is possible. Why? Because the huge part of sanctions were imposed on Russia by Europe, not by the United States. And the frozen actives, the huge part of frozen actives of Russia are in Belgium. So why this is important? Because Europe should have should be part of negotiations between Russia and United States, because without Europe, United States cannot make any gestures to Vladimir Putin, because the ties between United States and Russia are not so close, especially in the economy. This is very small percent. The huge percent are with Europe. So Kirill Dmitriev cannot achieve concrete results if Europe and European community and leaders will not lift the sanctions from Russia. And this also depends to the negotiation process.
Well, thank you for joining us, Lilit. And
Thank you.
thank you for joining YouthCast.